Welcome to another video on OpenShift. In this video, we'll talk about how to deploy a web application into the OpenShift environment. If you want more information on how to set up OpenShift environment on your Mac, refer to my previous video. I talked about setting it up using code ready containers, CRC, on your Mac. Very simple. So I'm going to deploy a web application into my OpenShift environment. And to do that, I created a very simple web application. And let's take a look at it. So here it is. It is so simple. It is a Flask framework based Python language based web application, and it does very simple things. And in fact, it does only one thing. When invoked through a web browser, it prints hello world, and that's it. So this application has this requirements.txt, which has only one thing in it, and that is Flask. And the engine for this web application is app.py, and all it does is creates the Flask application, and then it has a callback for routing whenever this application is invoked, and it returns this string back to the browser. And this application will be listening on port 8080. So when this application is installed on OpenShift environment, and when the OpenShift provides an access to this web application, you will be able to access it through port 8080. So let's see how that can be done. I'm going to log in to the OpenShift environment. So once I logged in, the first thing I need to do is create a namespace, or otherwise a project. So let me do that. Let me click on create project. I will key in a name for my project. Let me call it as my test project. And a display name, and also a very short description. This is a test OpenShift application. Let me click on create. When it is created, it has nothing in it to begin with, and my intention is to deploy a web application under this project. So to do that, in OpenShift terminology, I need to create a workload. So I'm going to click on workloads and click on add another content. If I know everything about this web application, I can try import YAML if I have the YAML um, definitions, but let's not do that for now, maybe in a future video. So I'm going to click on add another content. And my web application, since it is stored in a Git repository, I will pick from Git. So this is the source for my application. And when I click on it, it asks for the Git repository URL, which I will get it from here. I'm going to copy it and paste it. There we go. So this is a Python language based application. So the OpenShift needs to know what kind of image that needs to be used to deploy this application. So which is Python image. There's a Python builder image available. So I'm going to use that. If the language with which you developed your application is not available here in the form of an image, then you need to build that image first. But for us, luckily, we have a Python builder image already available. So let me click on it, and it automatically fills the image version, which is Python 3.6, which is the latest. And we're going to create an application. And here is application name suggested by OpenShift. And here is the another piece of information. I need to do this to get a route to this application. So when it is deployed, I want OpenShift to tell me what is the URL. I can access it from outside. Before I click create, let me look at some additional hidden artifacts that you don't have to know, but it is better to know to understand OpenShift more. So here are the labels. There's only one label attached to this web application, the app equal to front end. Under the covers, OpenShift wants to say that this is a front end application, which is front end application. And the resource limit. So if I want, I can limit the amount of CPU and memory available to this application. So for now, by default, I left it blank. That means unlimited amount of, I should not say unlimited, whatever CPU is available on the host, which is my Mac in this case, will be available to this application. And the entire memory on this Mac will be allocated or made available to my web application. And then scaling. OpenShift is going to not only create this application, which is in the form of building and creating an image and then pushing the image into the image repository and then create a deployment configuration and then deploy it into a pod. I can, by default, I can see that the OpenShift will create only one pod, but I can increase the number of pods for this web application. If this application is too complicated, then I can deploy it with more than one pod so that the load can be balanced by OpenShift. So mine is a very simple application. I'm going to leave it only one, but if you want, you can increase this number to any number of pods. And then the deployment configuration, as I said a moment ago, OpenShift is going to build and then push the image created for this web application into a image repository or image registry, I should say, and then deploy it in the form of a pod. So here are the details for such a deployment configuration and build configuration. So this is the set of details for customizing the build for building this web application. And finally, routing. So what kind of path do you want to expose? So I want to expose the root because in my application, I'm listening to the root path. So when the root path is invoked, I should return this. So by default is what OpenShift provides. And then the target port is by default 8080, so I'm going to leave it as is. So by default, this application will be made available through HTTP protocol. But if I want, I can make it secure by making it as a HTTPS based application. To do that, I need to click on this checkbox. But for this application, I'm not going to do that. So let me create this application by clicking on create. Now the workload is getting built and deployed. Let's see what exactly happens under the cover. So let me click on this workload. On the right side, I see it is getting built right now. So let me click on view logs to actually see what is done by OpenShift. It is cloning this web app from GitHub. And very shortly, you will see that this build step create an internal Docker file and then build an image with the Docker file and push it into the image registry provided by OpenShift. So let's wait for that to happen. You can see the action. The build is complete. So let's see what exactly happened. This is the internal Docker file details. from image and then some kind of a assemble code to assemble this web application. And finally, here is the command to run the web application inside the container. And then such an image is now pushed into this image registry, and the build is complete. So after the build is complete, OpenShift will deploy it into a pod. Let's see how that is done. I go to workloads and then go to deployment configuration. So here is the deployment configuration created by OpenShift, and it deployed the app into one pod. So if I missed to increase the number of pods while defining this web application, I can do it now. I can increase the number of pods for this web application, and OpenShift will dynamically deploy multiple pods for this web app. And I can decrease the number of pods as well. So this is very dynamic. This is real time. And let me go back to the pods now. So here is a pod that's already created and it is running as well. If I want, I can log in to this pod through the terminal interface, and you can see the web application deployed here, same web app that we saw a moment ago. And then let me see if I can locate the web application. So here it is. The ps-ef command shows the web app running. So now how do I access it? So I need to get the routing information for this web app from OpenShift. So to do that, I can go to networking. And first of all, look at the service. So here's a service created for this web app by OpenShift. But most importantly, I need to look at the route associated with the service. And here is the URL. When I click on this URL, the web application will get the request and it will respond back. So here it is. And the web application was invoked and it returned a value back. So this is how a very tiny web application can be deployed in OpenShift environment. I hope you enjoyed this video and hope you got some information about how to deploy a very simple web application in OpenShift. In a future video, we will talk about more on how to do the same using a CLI, a command line interface, rather than using this web interface, the OpenShift web interface. Thanks for watching and bye for now.